is famous for many things: their art, pyramids, mummification, and most of all, their gods and beliefs. They are also known for their mixture of multiple religions, including polytheism, totemism, and ancestor worship. They worship many deities where females and males, animals, and people with animal heads are all considered gods and things of worship, which lived in the human world instead of the heavens. However, different gods were all worshipped differently, depending on the areas in which the place of worship was taking place, either Upper or Lower Egypt. Like the Greeks, Egyptian gods began for the same reason. The main purpose for the Egyptian gods were to connect their sacred world to the real world, while they were also used for storytelling and their means of entertainment. However, they soon turned into something that was considered realistic and possible, while being crucial information for their later beliefs and ceremonies. These stories are also used as a tool in order for the Egyptians to get through the death process. Also, both the Egyptians and the Greeks used these types of stories as a way to explain many of their unanswered questions that may seem almost impossible to answer. Egypt is separated into two parts: Upper Egypt, which is located in the southern part, and Lower Egypt, also known as the Delta region, located in the north, each having their own god to worship. During the 19th dynasty, Lower Egypt had Horus, who was considered the king of the gods on earth, along with being the sky god, and Upper Egypt, which consisted mainly of desert lands, was ruled by Set, the god of the deserts and the god of evil. Both of these rulers were considered to be related and feuding with one another the moment the regions united. Another huge influence for the Egyptians is their pharaohs, who are considered to be incarnations of Horus. Next to the gods, the pharaohs are the most important thing. However, without the beliefs of the gods, the pharaohs wouldn't be anything. It is only the pharaohs who have the ability to connect the spiritual world with the human world. They are looked at as the ones who keep Egypt under control while being in charge of keeping foreign enemies away, and have been ever since Narmer during the beginning of the Old Kingdom around 3100 BCE. Since the people are never able to communicate or cater to the gods, the pharaohs and the local priests are kept very busy by the gods. However, when they weren't dealing with communicating with the gods, they were involved in many love affairs and murders throughout the land in order to appear busy. The gods all gather in temples in which no humans are allowed to go except for the pharaohs and local priests. These temples are kept very neat for the gods in order for them to have a place to have for themselves in honor of all that they have done for the people of Egypt. The Egyptian pharaohs were very unique in the sense that not only men could become a ruler, but many women over time held the throne, Cleopatra being the most famous of them all. The pharaohs had also made it their duty to dress and present themselves in a very elegant and drastic way. Especially the queens were highly encouraged to look their best at all times. They would dress in very seductive and elegant ways in order to ensure their ability to seduce and have love affairs with the men of Egypt, almost like it was their hobby. Unlike most cultures, the women were also taught to have their own personalities in which they would use as a tactic to seduce the men. Two of the main gods who had played a big role in the beginning of Egyptian belief are Osiris and Isis. Osiris was born to the god of earth, Geb, and the goddess of the sky, Nut. He is the father of Horus and brother to Set and Isis, along with the great-grandchild of Ra, the all-famous sun god. He is considered the very first god to have been dead and resurrected, but was at first known as the god of fertility and viewed as the good almighty king, who was sent to them to bring joy to the Egyptian land. He is thought to have been born at some point during the end of the Old Kingdom, between 2465 to 2323 BCE. However, his title to the Egyptians now is God of the Underworld, along with being known as the Good Shepherd. He dresses as a green-skinned man who is depicted as a mummified pharaoh who holds a crook and a flail, which is a wooden weapon that we see a lot later on during the medieval times in Europe. He now has the Philae temple in which he can go and be worshipped by all. Isis, who is also known to have been born sometime during the 5th dynasty, is considered to be the queen of the gods. She is also someone who had married her own brother, Osiris, both of whom were despised by their other brother Set, who is portrayed as a god with a human's body along with a mixture of animals as his headdress, which include aardvark, jackal, and a donkey. Set was Osiris's arch nemesis. He really wanted to rule the land that all the Egyptians considered Osiris's. Osiris became sole leader of Egypt and brought the people who were once fighting to unity, and he is the god that inspired the Egyptians to give up cannibalism. Osiris was able to bring the Egyptians to unity by teaching them how to plant wheat and barley so they would be able to grow things and make money for their own families instead of always relying on others to put food on their table. He had also brought the people of Egypt together by introducing music and poetry, along with including a set of laws in order to ensure that Egypt was kept under control. When Set had decided that he wanted to rule Egypt, he knew that the only way to do it was to kill Osiris, considering that Osiris was viewed as being the most powerful and trusted figure of all the Egyptians. Set knew that since Osiris and Isis were so committed to each other, he had to kill Osiris when Isis either wasn't around or wasn't expecting it. Set also knew that he had to do something pretty drastic in order to pull off killing the king of Egypt. So he constructed a chest made of cedar and ivory in which he made sure that it fit a person of Osiris' size. Set then constructed and put on a suit that was identical to Osiris' body and laid in the chest as a test run to ensure Osiris would be the only one out of the entire kingdom who would fit in the chest. Set then announced to the public that he was putting on a large feast for all the people of Egypt in order to honor their great ruler Osiris. Little did the people know that this was all just an act that Set put on in order to appear like a good man to the people, so when he locked Osiris up, they would still feel safe and trustworthy under his rule. While at the feast, Set said, "I will give this chest to whoever fits it most exactly." While many people tried to fit in it, no one fit quite as well as Osiris. While Osiris was testing out the chest, Set proceeded to push the lid down and nail the chest shut, in hopes of killing Osiris and becoming the sole ruler of Egypt. Set's plan was very effective, and Osiris did end up dying in the cedar chest, while his spirit was then sent across Egypt. The people of Egypt sent his chest into the Nile River, which eventually washed up onto shore under a tree, which later became a very famous tree of the land. Right after Osiris was sent away, Isis wanted to find and try to save her love, so she went on a hike through the marshes of Egypt in hopes of finding him. Eventually Isis did find Osiris, and in return she opened the chest and casted a spell on Osiris' dead body in order to bring him back to life so she could say her final goodbyes. To Isis' surprise, her spell worked and did in fact bring Osiris back to life for a short amount of time, who in return got Isis pregnant, and later she gave birth to the great Horus during the 18th dynasty, where she raised him in seclusion in order to protect him from the other Egyptians and most importantly Set. Horus later became the king of the gods and leader of Lower Egypt, who is depicted as a god with a human's body and the head of a hawk. When Horus had gotten older during the 19th dynasty and had received more knowledge about his father's death, he knew that the only thing for him to do was to get revenge on Set for murdering his father Osiris, which resulted in a series of battles between the two of them. In the south, during the beginning of the 19th dynasty, Set was able to gain respect before the battles with Horus had started. The reason as to why he was able to gain this respect was for his ability to restrain the forces of the desert. However, Set's respect and title came to an end when he became jealous and power-hungry over Horus. The first of these battles included Horus invading Upper Egypt in hopes of getting revenge. This fight ended in Horus winning, thus the reason as to why the Delta has the upper hand in ruling all of Egypt. During another one of the fights for the throne, Horus's eye had gotten injured, which Isis had happened to heal. However, the healing of Horus's eye has now become a huge symbol of renewal for Egypt and their pharaohs, while giving Horus the title of the sky god. Since the sky deals with the sun and the moon, his good eye, which is the right one, was said to represent the sun, since it was bright and functional, while his hurt eye was said to represent the moon, since it was darker and hazier.